Hello, everybody. I am Sarah Fisher, and I am the chair of the assessment committee here at Salina Tech. I wanted to walk everyone through the assessment process that we're using here at Salina Tech. As you know, part of the accreditation process is we are expected to demonstrate that all of our people, faculty, full-time, part-time, adjunct, concurrent, are participating in the assessment process. And I thought, sort of to save having to come in for a face-to-face meeting, it might just be easier if we created a little video lecture to explain the basics. So you're probably familiar with the whole concept of assessment. You have, of course, the course level, the program, and the institutional level, with the intention of this process creating some sort of plan that helps us do better at what we do. For our purposes, and this video is only going to be limited to course assessment, the program and the institution will be addressed or handled at the administrative level. But this action piece is part of our course assessment part as well. So our assessment, the theory, the philosophy behind it is it's not top down. We are to identify something that is meaningful to us, assess it in a way that's meaningful to us, and that is appropriate for our institution. Attached to this email is the structure. So what I've been thinking of it and talking about it as what this assessment process is it's a formalized structure for all of us to participate. And then my job, or part of what I'm doing as assessment chair, is I'm trying to keep track and be able to provide evidence that all of us are participating in this relatively structured way. I do realize, as do other administrators, recognize that we all are doing assessment because we're all engaged in, we're all educators, we're all interested in becoming better educators. Probably as we go along, when we find things are not working, we make changes. This task is really about putting those changes down or taking one example of that and documenting it. I kind of liken it to, we ask our students to do this, right? We ask our students to put to paper the sequence or the structure of their thinking, and that's really all we're doing. So what I want to do in these next few minutes and on these slides is walk you through the structure, the document that we're asking everyone to fill. So, of course, at the top, it's your report. You fill out the stuff. Some of this is taken from my assessment report. I'm the social science instructor here, so this is the psychology class. Below that will be the plan. So this is the introduction, so to speak. And you're asked and I should have said this probably sooner. Every instructor is asked to assess no fewer than one course a semester. If you teach 2 courses, you're asked to assess both of them, but no more than 2. So let me say that in a way that's a little bit clearer. No more than 2 courses, and no fewer than 1. So if you're only teaching 1 course, please assess that course. If you're teaching more than 1, you only need to pick 2. But But of those courses that you're assessing, you're only being asked to assess on 1 outcome. You can choose which outcome, but it needs to be, or we ask that it be at least, you can choose as many as you want, but one of those, for the purpose of the documentation, should be one of the approved outcomes, one of those outcomes that when you're given your syllabus template, it's got several on those. So it's one of them that the institution, it actually comes from the Kansas Board of Regents, so it's one of those approved outcomes. I don't know how many people add outcomes to it. I don't. I just use the ones that are already there. So it needs to be one of these. And in this particular plan, I have chosen the outcome about the biological basis of behavior. The next step, so that's taken straight from your syllabus. The next step is where you have some creative license, and I think it should be as specific as possible, but identify what are the artifacts, or what's the data that you're using to assess the teaching and the learning of this one outcome. over the course of assessment, I have tried various different things, and I found it's a little easier for me. I created an assessment quiz specific to that outcome, but sometimes it might be, maybe it's an essay, maybe it's 2 or 3 assignments, maybe it's a final project. Whatever. This is where you get your choosing. And then the third item here is, how will I know, using this data, how will I know if my students have been successful? And again, this is where you have some creative license as to what you're going to assess, how you're going to do it, and what's going to be considered success. In some programs, it's meaningful for them to choose like a licensing exam, and if you have to have a certain percentage. Okay, so you've done all that. Then the next section is where you report how you did, and I tend to think that the more detail, the better, because it's like, as I'm thinking through it, I probably know more about this data that I can put down on paper. And so in this case, I reported the number of students that took it, how well they did, and specifically what questions. So these are the results. The next one is just an application of the results. So basically, it's like the implication of this observation, right? What did I learn? Well, I learned that some of these things are still hard. I learned that, overall, everybody's doing fine, but I can see that some students still miss certain questions. Of course, there's other ways to present this data. Some faculty may choose to use a table. I think these are, my gosh, I should thank you about it, but they may use a table to illustrate their data. This pie chart was something that we were using, several of us were using a couple years ago here at the college. These are all taken from Canvas. This one's from Canvas. This one's from Canvas. This one is also taken from Canvas. So the data can be easily cut and pasted if that's your strategy. Here's another example of how data is presented. This one looks like it was an Excel spreadsheet. So again, it's up to you. It's supposed to be meaningful to you. When I look at these reports, really all I'm looking for is, do you provide data? Did you interpret the data? And do you have a conclusion? I'm not going to assess. We're not going to consider as, anyway, so it's meaningful to you. And then at the conclusion of all of your data, or the report, is the task of the action plan. Because again, with the philosophy being that we make an observation, we draw conclusions, and then how do we make it better? So they often talk in assessment circles about closing the loop. And that's what this is about, right? What is the action plan based on these observations? This is what I'll do, and this is what how I intend for it to be better. Again, in the spirit of closing the loop, it may mean that the next time this course comes up, you'll be assessing based on the changes you made the previous time. In order to sort of facilitate thinking, or in the spirit of supporting the assessment process, at the bottom of the report, you'll also notice there's some appendix here about different ways, different changes that you could potentially make. Some have changed them. So some examples. One of them might be revise the instructions, reword the question, change the due date, teach this different ways. So this doesn't need to be any sort of philosophical deep dive into why my students aren't learning this. It may simply be that I need to have a due date. I think that's actually one of them. Revise the link, revise the instructions, whatever is meaningful for you. I think one time I actually put change the due date on mine because I had so few people turn in that activity. And then here in the green is an example of how you might go into more detail is that what this one says in preparation? Oh, no, this one is, this is what I did after the fact. So again, in the spirit of closing the loop, the next time around, we would report on, this is what I did, and this is how how things were made to be better. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. The intention is not to be additionally cumbersome. It's not a highly complicated task. It is really just put to paper an illustration of this is what I tried to, this is what my goal was teaching. Like I was working at this outcome. This is what I was using to teach this outcome, and these were the results. You're already doing it, so just please, we're asking that you put it to paper. And then here's just a little, some sort of reminders about the process if I spoke too fast or you don't want to go back and listen again. Again, there's some confusion, so let me try to be clear. If you're teaching one course, you only need to assess the one course. If you're teaching two, we ask that you assess both of those courses, but no more than two. And we are asking that everyone who's teaching for Salina Tech do this. If you need help, I am happy to help you. I kind of enjoy the process of assessment. You can send your report to myself or to Jennifer, and we've asked for a suggestion as to how to name it, but I can also make those changes for you. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. I hope it doesn't, I hope to be clear, and happy assessing.